Hi everyone, I'm Donna Terrell and welcome to Terrell Talk. This is a Fox16.com show where I focus on interesting people and interesting topics. I bet you remember this. The night Frank Scott Jr. was elected by popular vote to serve as the mayor of the city of Little Rock. Right next to him was his mother on the right-hand side, and on the left-hand side, former Little Rock Mayor Lottie Shackelford, one of the people very involved in the campaign and the election of Frank Scott Jr. and Lottie Shackelford. She joins me now for Terrell Talk. Thank you for being here.
And thank you so much for asking me.
You know what, I'm a full disclosure here. I need to point out that you and I have known each other for quite some time.
Right.
We serve on a community service organization together, the Little Rock chapter of the Links Incorporated.
Yes.
So we see a lot of each other.
We do, and I admire what you do, not
you.
just on the air, but what you do for our community. So that is so important.
Thank you. Well, you know, I'm very involved in community service, as are you, but you're also very involved in politics. And we're going to talk about, you know, Frank Scott Jr. We just mentioned that a second ago, but you have, since you were mayor of Little Rock, you have taken it up a notch in terms of your involvement in politics. And I know this because you're always busy and you spend a lot of time in Washington, D.C.
Yes, I do. Number one, I love serving, and I love serving people and being with people and trying to figure out what you can do next to make certain you help someone.
Yeah,
so.
and you've done a great job of that. I admire everything you do, and again, thanks for being here.
And thank you.
Well, you know, this week, the mayor's office sent out a press release that spells out his flow chart for how the city will be run. And it's all based on a city ordinance giving him the authority to remove this man right here, city manager Bruce Moore, and/or direct him in terms of how he performs his job. Bruce Moore has run the city for more than 15 years. And Lottie, I come to you with this question because it's a pressing question. How do you think this is going to work out, especially with Mr. Moore, who's been in place for so long and has had a certain amount of autonomy, you know, under the city board of directors?
Right. Well, I think if we take a look at city manager form of government, particularly here in the city of Little Rock, realizing that it has undergone several transformations since 1957, was when Little Rock first voted to have a city manager form of government. Then it was tweaked a time later, I think maybe 1994 or so, to have the mayor directly elected by the people. Jim Daly was the first popularly elected mayor, you know, since 1957, and that was like 1994, 95 or so.
Yes.
And then fast forward, another tweaking occurred. And we made the mayor, the city did it because the citizens voted on it, made the mayor full-time.
Right.
That was in 2007.
And that was Mayor Mark Stodola.
That was Mayor Mark Stodola. And in that ordinance at that time, not only was the mayor made full-time, but that ordinance specifically says the mayor will be the chief executive officer.
It specifically said that, Lottie, but it never really happened that way. It didn't appear that way on the surface.
But I think in some conversations with former Mayor Stodola now, he stated, I mean, you sort of take one step at a time. And yes, he could have at that point started to implement as the ordinance said, but it was like one step at a time. So fast forward, we now have a newly elected mayor, and he then is basically implementing the rest of that ordinance.
Yeah.
And so this is like completing what that ordinance intended and what the citizens of Little Rock voted for.
So he's basically following the letter of the law, if you will.
Yes.
That's how, and you know, and it's very interesting, and we see him here, we see you with him there. One of the things he said in times during interviews when he was running, he said that he planned to be the chief executive officer. So that just kind of does change the dynamic of things.
Yes.
Do you think that's what voters really want to see?
Well, I think that's what voters voted for. And we know that there's been a lot of discussion in Little Rock as much as should we change the form of government to a stronger elected mayor.
Yeah.
Maybe they were thinking of mayor alderman form of government.
So that would mean no city manager then, correct?
Well, yes, yeah, you wouldn't have that term. I think any well-run city is going to always have a professional person still doing day-to-day operations who really knows local government.
They just have a different title.
They may just have a different title.
And they work directly for the mayor. They're one of the closest people to the mayor because the mayor is pretty much, they're answering directly to
We
that
still
person.
have somewhat of a bifurcated system because while the city manager will work with the mayor, but everything the mayor does right now or tries to implement, it still has to be ratified by the board.
Yes.
So it's not like the mayor can just say XXS will happen without getting the concurrence from the board.
Most cities are like that, though. That's why they're a city board of directors.
And that's no different. That's no different. Or even if it's a city council.
Exactly.
You know, even governors, even presidents don't have the total autonomy to just do all of what they say without some checks and balances and what's outside.
I think that would be called a dictatorship if they did, right?
Yes, and we don't have dictatorships in these United States.
Yes, that's exactly right. You know, I did want to ask you, and we saw the video. We saw the video of Ms. Shackelford right there next to our newly elected mayor. We're showing it again. Yes. But how did it feel for you that night?
Oh, my chest was burning. My heart was just pumping. I mean, to think, I still get teary.
Really?
When yes, because I think about how many instances in this great country of ours that there should have been things like what happened on November 6th happening. Yeah. And I, for one, I'm always saying, while we're grateful for the opportunities that we experience now, but it's a but for. Because you know there were so many people of color who were qualified to do the job, but never given the opportunity.
You were a person of color who was qualified to do the job. Granted, it was a different type of city government.
No, but I'm saying even I felt the same way when I became the first woman elected mayor here in the city of Little Rock. But I said, but for the timing and but for having lived through a segregationist period, there were many others who looked like me, who they too could have had that opportunity, but for it being snatched from them.
You know, I would also like to know, since you were standing front and center with him, obviously you're a very important person to our new mayor. What can you tell us in terms of what you have said to him, or maybe what you said to him leading up to winning the race, and what you've said to him since to kind of guide him, because he is young.
Yes.
He's never been elected to public office.
Yes.
So this is a completely different ball game.
Yes, but what I say to him are just general kinds of things, as I would say, wisdom type tidbits. You know, always be yourself. Every decision you make certain it's a decision you will be able to sleep with at night. And so I try to give him that kind of general advice, as opposed to trying to give specific advice. Because he is going to be the one that will reap the benefits and will also be the one that will suffer whatever ills there are.
Whatever consequences that come with it.
Yes,
all right,
yes,
okay.
Yes.
Well, Lottie, it's been nice talking to you. We will talk again. We have another segment that's coming up. But in the meantime, I do want to thank you all for joining this edition of Terrell Talk. We'll see you again next time.